Man, this is so cool. Not many people can say they've ever done this. One wrong step could be your last one. The fans are working once again. So we may have a potential situation developing here. It's been 5 years since I stepped foot on this abandoned section of highway, better known as the Abandoned Turnpike Tunnels here near Breezewood, Pennsylvania. Back in 2019, I hosted a meetup event here where myself and several others walked on foot sections of the old highway and through both tunnels. But 5 years later, I returned with some friends and our e-bikes to do this in a much more efficient way. We're going to ride all 13 miles of the old highway, including going through the Race Hill and Sidling Hill tunnels of the old abandoned turnpike. For those you may have seen my original video, this will be a great revisit and update of that first video from 5 years ago. If you haven't seen that video, or maybe you're not familiar with this location, well, all I ask you to do is to sit back, relax, and come along with me and the rest of us as we explore the famous abandoned turnpike tunnels. So joining me for today's adventure is, off to my left is Jake, ahead of me is Dan, and ahead of him is Becky, Matt, and Jess. Matt PG was supposed to join us today, but he had to be on call for work, so he wasn't able to attend. But this is a much more easier and efficient way and a warmer day to do it. 5 years ago when I was here, I think it was November of 2019, walked on foot and it was a chilly day and inside the tunnels was even colder. But today it's going to feel like air conditioning on the inside. And I also have my newest camera, my DJI Pocket 3, which does phenomenal in low light, so we'll get some even better footage than we captured last time. And Matt is actually going to attempt to ride his e-bike through the upper air chamber of one of the tunnels. So if he's able to do that, I'm going to try to get that on film as well. I do want to make a quick pit stop through here. This was actually a service station for the old turnpike. I'll show you a before photo. So around the sweeping bend up here where this jumble of trees is was the building where you could stop just like your traditional rest area, get fuel, get some food and snacks, information. That was the one and only rest area along this 13-mile stretch located right here. Now it's just an empty, overgrown parking lot. And that is on our way to our first tunnel, which is the Sidling Hill. And here we are, the ominous looking Sidling Hill Tunnel. Now before we head inside to pass through it and up on top, let me take a moment to tell you about the history of the abandoned Pennsylvania Turnpike tunnels. To talk about the history of the turnpike tunnels, we first have to talk about some railroad tycoons. In the late 1800s, William Vanderbilt was one of the richest railroad barons in the world. Along with fellow titan of industry Andrew Carnegie, they set out to build a railroad that would compete directly with the Pennsylvania Railroad. Construction began in 1881 for the proposed South Penn Railroad, and they chose a route across southern Pennsylvania, thus the name, that would require 9 tunnels to be dug, along with numerous bridges and aqueducts to be constructed to carry the rail line across rivers and streams. The following footage shows some of the ruins and construction that took place for the proposed line. This incredibly built aqueduct was one of many items that were built or were planned to be built for the South Penn Railroad. For various reasons, plans fell apart, and ultimately, the South Penn Railroad was never completed. Vanderbilt and Carnegie struck a deal with the Pennsylvania Railroad in 1885, and the project was abandoned. The Pennsylvania Turnpike purchased the tunnels in 1938, completed construction, and officially opened them to vehicles in 1940. Three tunnels were used for this section of Turnpike, which are the Rays Hill Tunnel, the Sidling Hill Tunnel, and the Laurel Hill Tunnel. The Rays Hill Tunnel is the shortest in length at 3,532 feet long, the Laurel Hill Tunnel is 4,541 feet long, and the Sidling Hill Tunnel is the longest at 6,782 feet long, over 1 mile long. The tunnels turned out to be hugely popular in the early days and helped cut down travel time, since motorists were able to travel directly through the mountains instead of around them. Over time, the amount of cars on the road increased, and so did the problems. The turnpike operated with 2 travel lanes in each direction, but the tunnels only had 1 lane of traffic running through them, which created bottlenecks at each portal and long travel delays, especially on holidays. Plans to widen the tunnels were scrapped, as it was determined to be more cost-effective to reroute the roadway over the mountains. The tunnel was closed to vehicles in 1968, but the tunnels were still lit and guarded until 1973, while officials determined what to use them for. With the future unknown, the tunnels were boarded up until 1988. The tunnels and roadway were then used by the state for testing of paving materials. In 2001, the Southern Allegheny Conservancy purchased the property from the PA Turnpike Commission for $1. In 2009, the east portal of the Rays Hill Tunnel was used in the 2009 movie The Road. Today, the 13-mile stretch of former turnpike is open to the public for walking and biking, but vehicles are not permitted. Sections of the employee areas of Rays Hill and Sidling Hill are open, with many dangerous areas, and if you choose to enter inside, you do so at your own risk, as these areas are not watched or monitored. The Laurel Hill Tunnel is privately owned and is used for high-speed race car aerodynamic testing. And if you'd like to get more information about the South Penn Railroad or the Turnpike, please check the links in the description. So now that we have some history of these tunnels and the Turnpike system here, we're going to explore the innards a little bit. This is the bay door, which is now exposed. This would have been for personnel only. And we're just going to see a lot of concrete, brickwork. This would have been your access for upstairs, which is, as you can see, incomplete. Someone has rigged up a ladder, but I don't trust that. There is, I believe, another way upstairs. I feel like falling on some rusty metal today. Right here would have been all conduit for electricity, for lighting. And I believe they actually had steam stoves or boilers in here, because we do have a coal room, still partially full of coal right there. Would have came in through that chute right there. So they were burning coal either in a furnace or in stoves. And this is some plumbing here. This is a little room. Then there's this room here that just drops down to a muddy mess. Thought I was gonna bang. See where the light switches would have been. For how old it is, it's still holding up pretty well. A lot of vandalism, of course, mostly graffiti. You can see some old light fixtures right up there. Taking this worn path up to the top will give us a view looking down into the old highway. And it should be our access to the inside. Oh yeah, there he is.
I thought he's been there for years.
Yeah, I remember that from 5 years ago.
Come on, Shorty.
Okay, yeah, we could definitely go in that way. Matt's scouting it out to see if he could possibly ride through it. And what you see here are these big vents that would have brought in fresh air. I'm sorry, would have expelled the air from inside the tunnel. There would have been big fans and would have had basically big exhaust vents for the polluted air to come out of.
This might be easier than the real bike.
It's like it was made for this.
Dude, you gotta put this in a review video.
So as you can tell, there are some safety hazards. Oh, you can actually see right out to our bikes out there.
Oh yeah. That's
We're
a
in.
nice way down.
So that's looking right outside. So here's looking at part of the machinery. See, there's would have been a belt in there, I believe. It's got the cover on it. Yep, there's the pulley. There's a series of belts. And then we have the big, I'm going to call it turbines. Looks like, again, we're belt driven. The big shaft, spin the big drum with the fins on it. There it is. Pretty good look at it. And again, there's the vents right there. We were checking out from the outside. So we're in the vent room, if you want to call it that. So next to the first one is another one here. Move double the air.
You can see that winch right here.
Yeah, I think they are identical. This has the hood for the belt. There's a pulley wheel right there. Would make sense to have one on each side for these both fan units. It's all muddy base. So you can see where there's like an electrical box here.
I wonder if this button just came in through these windows over there. Like it had like a mudslide.
These are fascinating to see. Kind of frozen in time, haven't run in decades, but still exist in modern day. So you come down the steps to a triangle-shaped room. It just pinches out. And then you can go either direction, and it will take you up above the tunnel. That's where the air chamber is, the turbine. Yep. Are you going to ride it?
I am. Jess is probably not. So if you want to ride her bike.
So these holes, you're looking right down onto the roadway where the vehicles would be passing. This was a light fixture, I believe. And these rectangle ones were the vents for the air. Would have sucked up the air out of here. Let's do a echo test. Echo! 10 seconds later, it finally stopped. So they do have some artificial track here. It's not really in place too well, but they did use a track system for moving some carts with material. And you can see that it goes upwards. And there's a sense of scale with him walking down there. It does get narrower as you go towards the middle. All right, I'm riding Jess's bike. She's kind enough to let me use it. I'm joining Matt. I think we're the first people ever to ride e-bikes above the turnpike tunnels, the abandoned turnpike tunnels. This is so cool. Not many people could say they've ever done this. Wow. Okay, that came up really quick. I almost hit my head off the roof. And there's all water droplets up there. I don't think I could go much further. It's too hard to ride and film at the same time. I know he said there's a wall up there with a door. I can't get to it from here. Okay, so I persevered on. Matt's up here. We're at is this the halfway point?
I would assume so.
So there's a brick wall that is like a divider, which is a square opening.
There's a door, if I remember correctly. Here's the door.
Oh, okay. So that probably controls airflow.
Did the air stop?
Yeah, and there's a latch too, you can latch it.
Pretty crazy.
So I basically can't stand all the way up in here. My head is hitting the top, and I'm still hunched over. And just to show you what it's like behind me, with the lights off, you're gonna be able to see, or hopefully see. So those are the lights on, here's lights off. Total darkness, there's no light at all. And there's actually some big openings we came by on the way through too. Some of them are big enough to actually fall through. Some big square openings. These are, again, the lights, the vents, but there's some larger square openings every so often. And this is, I'm basically shining the light right down on the road right here. But Matt, I think we made history. We were probably the first two people to ride e-bikes through here. All right, so while they're taking their bikes back out, we're gonna head down the intact staircase to the first floor. Can't take the steps any further. Well, actually we could. Just can't go below that. Did these steps hold?
Yeah. Let's watch that one there. It's a dude. Oh, that one's loose on the edge. I see it moving.
This is just a big empty room.
Maybe a wall system, some sort of.
This is, I thought that was PVC. That's asbestos. Insulating the pipe.
Something was sitting in this area too. It's like a basement.
And we got people coming. So we're below the big opening, which I believe is that cover right there. That was covering that hole. Yeah. A lot of asbestos. Well, let's see. We have option 1 to leap. Option 2, scale the railing and the ladder. Option 3, go back the way we came. What do you think?
I'm going this way.
Option 3. Steps are rusty, but thankfully they're still holding. But one wrong step could be your last one.
Yeah.
Flashlights are highly recommended.
The first steps are the doozy ones.
Well, we rode our bikes on top of the tunnel. Now we're riding through the tunnel. Just like the vehicles used to do. And I smell devil's lettuce. Oh, okay. No, that's good. I come to realize that my memory is kind of vague on certain areas from when I was here 5 years ago. I remember a lot of the things, certain things I don't. One of them is the distance between the two tunnels. I was talking to Matt off camera saying I think it's either 6 or 9 miles. Could be one of those two, could be neither. I do know it's too far to walk. When we were here in 2019, we drove around to the other end. But there are some people here today walking this entire length. They're going to be here all day. Doing it even on a traditional bicycle, not an e-bike, is a much more efficient way to do it than walking. But I have to say though, cruising on the bikes though is so fun. It's as close as you could come as to like riding an automobile on these old highways here. Matt and Jess are ahead of me. Becky's right there, and that means Dan and Jake are farther back. And I believe when we stop at the Rays Hill Tunnel, on one of the ends, we're going to take a lunch break. I did bring some food with me. And I also do have some information to share with you too about some changes coming to this abandoned section of highway and the turnpike tunnels. So stay tuned for later in the video as I make some mention of that. And it's going to actually possibly change the access that you do have to exploring the tunnel areas. If you look closely, you can actually see the old stripes for passing. Do you see a mountain ahead? That means we should be nearing the Rays Hill Tunnel. Well, with the exploration of Sidling Hill Tunnel complete, we're now heading down the turnpike, if you want to say that. Open stretch of road to the next tunnel, Rays Hill. And as you can see, or notice, or feel, at least I could feel it, the road is not completely flat and level and pristine. Not only from years of the weathering, but as we learned through the history, the state did a lot of testing of materials. So there's different types of materials put upon each other, and it makes for some speed bumps and some rather jagged pieces of pavement and asphalt. So still passable, but not a very smooth ride in certain sections. Cross over to the other side, a little bit smoother over here. See if we can open it up, catch up to those guys. Friggin' bumpy as all hell.
These have suspension.
Yeah. Well, we're at the portal of the Rays Hill Tunnel. We're going to do a lunch break. What are you guys eating? Taco Bell? Salad? Granola bar? What do you got?
Hoagie and a tasty cake.
I got hoagie, Monster, and Doritos, and a Hershey's bar with almonds.
I was thinking we could do something cool, yeah.
I thought about it, but I'm like,
Ramen.
could have brought like a flank steak.
Yeah. Sushi.
Well, here we are passing through the Rays Hill Tunnel. There's Dan right there. A little bit of dust kicking up from the rest of them. Do a wheelie! on the other side of the Race Hill Tunnel. This should be our access point to get upstairs and inside the inner workings. It's going to be very similar to Sidling Hill, but we do want to document it since we're here because I mentioned changes are possibly coming, which I will talk about after we get done with the exploration of this part. Smells like there was a fire in here recently.
I smell it.
What is it?
Fire.
Yeah.
So this is probably the room that we saw in the other tunnel with the coal. Yeah, there's a coal falling out as we walk in here. Oh yeah, it's like a pump.
There's a pulley there. Maybe they had a belt.
Yeah,
There was one in the other one.
yeah, it wasn't as exposed as this.
Correct.
There's like a pit beneath it. Would have had water. Maybe when water collected in here, this was like a pump to pump it out.
Could be. Yeah. Oh, I left the list in there.
Yeah, if you got
Now, what
it.
would be fired by coal for this workings?
They either had coal boilers or coal stoves for the workers to stay warm or cook. In the earlier days, I'm imagining.
Okay. Now I'm thinking like coal-fired generator to run electricity to run the pumps.
It could have been at one time.
Someone put that line in there.
Are you kidding me?
Was it here at one point?
I think they were more intact than that.
Yeah, they really broadened.
Huh.
Looks
How's it look?
Once you get past here, you'd be fine.
sketchy.
Does it feel like it's like in place?
It's metal.
It's pretty heavy, right?
Terrible that sound.
I want to get a look at it.
Oh, it's in there pretty good. I personally wish it was over there, but they probably did it there so it's hooked onto that other.
Probably to hold onto the railing too.
Yeah.
It's doable, it's just sketchy.
It's
Oh,
doable.
we got some sketch going on.
So much room for activities. If you guys know what movie that's from, comment in the comment section. So much room for activities. All right, I think we're gonna have to find a plan B way to the top. That's not gonna work out, especially carrying camera gear. Do see a path going up this side here, so I think we could maybe go up to the top. All right. It's a steep climb, but we made it. All right, so we have steps going down. We'll check that out a little bit later. Our big open air window. Looking all the way down into the first floor. It is about a 30-foot drop at least.
Oh, there's a heater.
Oh yeah, there's a heater. See some asbestos around the piping. Oh, I didn't show last time. Here is the inside under the fan. So there's the blades. Just a box, pretty much empty shell. But this would be spinning at a pretty high velocity and would be quite the sight to see. Show you a sense of scale compared to me with this here. It's definitely taller than me.
Sliding.
It starts spinning.
Oh, it is spinning.
Oh,
I feel like I'm on a hamster wheel.
be careful. Don't get raised.
Jesse, be careful.
Bring the camera over here, please. So, yeah, I got this wheel spinning.
Wow, I'm looking at you from the bottom side here.
Are you?
Faster.
Yeah, okay. That is pretty neat.
Wow, look at the pulley over here.
Well, that's an experience I never thought I'd have. Spinning these old turbines. Pretty cool. It's like a giant hamster wheel. All right, so Matt's inside there now. He's gonna get it spinning. We're gonna see how all the mechanisms work in conjunction with it. Oh yeah, I see it starting to spin.
JP, check this out.
Keep it going for another minute. The fans are working once again. We brought it back to life. So this is just what the camera sees with no lights on. It's picking it up pretty well, but then you come into the main chamber and it's just darkness. This one though is in much better condition than the Sidling Hill Tunnel. It's more solid, bone dry. Would have been a lot better to ride through this one.
They put some kind of box here.
It's a little bit hot and humid up here. Let's go down to the floor beneath us. Check that out. But I still can't believe that we have a look at these big turbines spinning once again. They're going through right now. So there's where we were, third floor, second floor, looking down into the first. Where's it at? Where's there a sink?
The toilet was probably right here. You can see there's the flange.
Oh yeah,
Totally hell.
that was definitely a toilet.
Yep. And then and the other, there's a shelf that used to be right here.
It's like a little slop sink.
Porcelain sink, isn't it?
We have an electrical switch.
Ah, and a little knob and tube right there.
The conduit. There's a light fixture right there. Some tasteful wall art. Little shelf. Something would have been right here. What do you think that could have been? Maybe a shelf or a heater, maybe?
Could be.
Maybe a heater. Yeah,
This could be natural gas or propane.
yeah, it could have been
Maybe piped it in.
what's it called? Like a radiator, maybe.
In the other room, I saw one on the wall.
Yeah, there's one hanging I saw. It was like the
Right above us here.
box heater.
Yes, yes.
And there's all the asbestos right here.
Ew.
Oh, that's the insulation around
Yeah.
the pipe, yep.
It looks
Scratch
like-
and sniff.
Just scratch and die. It looks like casting for a cast, like on an arm or a leg.
From a distance, it's almost like PVC piping, but it's not.
That's cast iron.
Cast iron.
You can see it here, it's cracked open. You can see inside the Y.
There was probably water in there and froze and busted.
That makes sense.
We were talking off camera about how this whole system worked, and we think we have a pretty good idea about what took place. And I was on the ballpark before, but thanks to Matt's help, we were able to kind of hone in on everything. So we think that there was an electric motor mounted here. And what were these called?
The motor probably mounted to these bolts, and these slots, you would adjust the tension with this here to move the motor forward or back.
to keep the tension on the belts in there on the pulley.
Drive the fans.
So on the outside here, there also would have been something mounted on top of here, mounted to that spindle. And then when we come around the side, this little sprocket here probably had a chain on it, which goes through the slots. There's two holes there and connects to the other side to this one. And we believe this was also to keep tension on the units, to keep them properly spaced apart. But in here, this is chain driven. So belt driven on the outside where the source is for the power, chain driven, which turns the shaft to turn the big fan.
If you look from here, you can kind of see that chain right through there. I don't know if you can see it in that hole.
Yeah, I could see with my own two
You'll
eyes.
be able to zoom on your video.
Okay.
But inside is your giant fan. I don't know if you showed it previously.
Yeah, I showed you spinning it too. And it's just the open cavity in here, and the air would get pushed up and out.
Now, down inside the air shaft room, this metal here, maybe that lifted with these cables.
I'm thinking there had been a flat. Yeah, that actually makes perfect
See those
sense.
cables there?
Yep, that's what it would do. They
It
lift
would
that
lift
up.
that up and allow the air to flow through the air shaft.
Yeah, so it's closed right now, but it would have been open to suck the air up.
Yeah, at the top you can see 3 hinges.
Yeah,
1,
that's
2, 3.
so that's a big flap.
So what powers that cable? Maybe that chain?
Either that, or there could have been. Oh, I know what it is. There's the gentleman was telling me there's winches on top. Those winches would have lifted those up.
makes sense.
You can see them right there.
Okay.
There's 3 of them for each three
Okay.
cables. So they had winch systems up on top of the upper level to lift up the flap to allow the air to escape.
And I'd imagine tunnels today use the same technology.
Yeah, and then the air came out here and vented out through these grates. So as we said before, it's just a giant vent room, and the air would have came through those flaps from the tunnels below. So we pieced it together pretty well. More than I had knowledge of before when I was here the first time. But these are just standing the testament of time. It's just amazing to see. And the fact that we got them spinning, and they spun fairly easy, like not really any friction or anything. They were like, not much effort to get them moving again. It's a giant hamster wheel.
Just needs a new electric motor.
Yeah, seriously, bring a generator and get it going. So I want to take a moment to explain to you about some potential changes that could be happening to this abandoned section of Turnpike Tunnel. Now this is not speculation, it has been talked about by officials, but it's been talked about for a few years, but it's even closer now to actually happening and becoming a reality. There's actually a press conference that took place right here on location where they talked about the proposed changes and I guess you could say upgrades. So it's known as Pike to Bike, I believe. You could Google that, but what they're talking about doing is making this a destination location for walkers, runners, and bicyclists. But that involves some work being done to these tunnels, both good and not so good, depending on how you look at it. What they want to do, though, is have some designated parking areas and some bike stations with pavilions. So they want to have a tool rack so you can make sure your bike is good to go, even a wash station to clean your bike off, picnic tables, even a covered pavilion, maybe some bathrooms, just a really nice, well-kept area. Obviously, it would mean cleaning up the road, getting all the weeds gone, getting rid of the rubble, filling in any potholes. But when it comes to these tunnels, though, there are some changes that they talked about. One of the good ones is potentially putting lighting through here once again. Now, obviously, there's no power out here. This is a relatively remote area. I was talking to the guys saying they could probably put solar panels on top of the vent houses on top of each end, and that would be enough power to have an LED light system going through here to illuminate it. Because right now, unless you bring your own flashlight or go really slow, it is pretty dark once you get halfway through. So lighting this up would be fantastic. The other thing, though, since this would be a more monitored site, is that the openings and the areas we were would be sealed off most likely. So we're documenting it today, 5 years later from when I was first here, but we don't know when those changes are going to take place, only that it's coming closer to happening than it has before. So if they do seal these up, these are going to be kind of off limits, no way to get in that I'm going to know of, and you won't be able to see what exists on the inside or even being able to go above the tunnels like we did. So we wanted to document this today as just a final hurrah, just in case it does happen. Not to say that we won't come back and enjoy riding on this like we are today, but as far as exploring the off-limit areas, that may be an opportunity that might not exist much longer. So if you do have plans on coming here, whether you've been here before or for your first time, my recommendation is make it sooner than later, because being able to go up above the chamber of the tunnel, and whether you walk it or ride bikes or e-bikes like we did, that opportunity will be gone. Getting some pictures taken, going up to see all the fans, the motor areas, that's going to be an area that will no longer be seen by the public except for documented videos and pictures. So if you are planning on coming here and exploring it to your most capable ability, I recommend doing it sooner than later. But with that being said, I'm looking forward to those changes when they do take place. It's going to make this even better than it already is. It'll be a more manicured area, to have a area where you could service your bike, clean it off, to have a covered pavilion and or restrooms would be a great addition. And I think would just attract a lot more people to come here. There's been a lot of people here today, but I could imagine if those changes take place and it gets basically publicly known more than it already is, you're going to see a lot more people here. So just keep that in mind. With the good comes the bad. Just depends on how you look at it. After fully and completely exploring the Rays Hill Tunnel, inside and out, top and bottom, we're now going to the final end of the 13-mile stretch of abandoned Turnpike Highway. Some skateboarders. We did see a person on a e-board or electric board when we stopped for lunch earlier. We were talking about his board. He was talking to us about our bikes. See some rumble strips on the side here, whether they were here when the road was open or those were test strips. I just noticed them though. But you can see the foliage is just closing in. So a lot of work would have to be done to clear this out and make it look a bit more pristine if those proposed plans do take place, which it does sound like they will at some point. And it looks like we reached the end, or the beginning, depending on how you look at it. We're now in Breezewood, Pennsylvania, on this end.
I remember these barriers actually blocked the road.
Yeah.
You must have moved them for emergency access.
And the parking location's right down there along the road. So one thing I didn't know that Dan filled us in on is that at one time there would have been a bridge here that went straight across, because the current Turnpike 76 is over there in that direction. That's why I used to get here. So they veered off of this and went around the mountain instead of using this to go through the mountain. So the bridges are no longer in place, so that would have connected right over to the existing 76 that would have brought you on this section of the now abandoned turnpike. Now that graffiti highway in Centralia is for the most part covered up, looks like this is slowly replacing that. Do have graffiti bridge down in Shoemakersville, but over here near western Pennsylvania, you lost something. Do have a new graffiti highway, and Jake lost his hat. There's a vehicle back here. Is this a game commission or something, or park services? How you doing?
Good, how are you doing?
Not too bad.
Yeah?
Enjoying the day.
Yeah.
So just a quick update. We stopped and we were chatting with that forest ranger, which I didn't know they actually come out here and patrol, but apparently someone may have reported the motorcyclists out here. And he just asked us where we saw them last. And he's like, I'm glad you're being good citizens, using, e-bikes, which are allowed here. Anything with gas engines are not allowed. So if you ever had the idea of coming through here on, say, a go-kart, ATV side-by-side, it's not allowed. If you get caught, I'm sure they would fine you. Motorcyclists, like I said, they're doing their own thing. It doesn't bother me at all what they do, but they asked us, the forest ranger, who was actually really nice and kind and courteous and polite, was just asking, where we saw them. We just said they passed through the tunnels. They were wearing helmets. One of them had a plate that we know of, and they started at one end and came to the other. But yeah, I guess it's just something to pass along. Don't come here on a gas-powered engine of any sorts. Any type of bicycle or electric-powered bike or scooter, I'm sure it'd be allowed. But hopefully they don't come through again, because that guy's looking for them. Oh, somebody's lighting off some smoke bombs or fireworks. I could smell it. No, that's smoke from like sulfur fireworks. It is quite smoky. Back here at the Sidling Hill Tunnel, and I was going to take it right through one more time, but as you can see, there's something going on. So not only did someone light off some fireworks or smoke bombs, but we thought there's some individuals getting in trouble. Turns out the people we saw earlier on the e-boards, there's a little girl with them. She actually fell and got hurt. So thankfully the ranger came through, has a first aid kit to help her out. It just worked out though that the little girl who got hurt, is able to be for the most part, medically checked on by the park ranger and the first aid kit. So I'm sure that was a sigh of relief for those people there. I'm gonna wait for it to clear out a little bit. I'm gonna do one final pass through of the Sidling Hill Tunnel.
Or if the smoke.
So we may have a potential situation developing here. Large grouping motorcycles, and as far as I know, coming through the tunnel are the headlights of the forest ranger. May not be a good situation. We'll see what happens. So those are different guys on bikes that we saw from before. Yeah, not the same guys from earlier. Seems like he's maybe just giving them a warning. He hasn't asked for their ID or anything. It's not the same people from before on the motorcycles, but there's definitely at least a half a dozen bikes here. Just showing you that they don't want this here. Although I'm sure it's fun as all heck. Not worth the risk.
Or they won't be able to catch you.
All right, so he did ask for their IDs. Jake's still coming?
He's right behind.
Should beep his little horn. So we're just ready to pass back through the Sidling Hill Tunnel. I glanced over to my left and saw one of the most incredible graffiti pieces I've ever seen. I'm calling this art, not even graffiti. It basically goes floor to ceiling, and it's so well done. There's a neighborhood there. You got is he like what is he? Like a steel worker or something, or tin man? And you got a hand with eyes and teeth. Incredibly detailed. But I love the little neighborhood though. Skyline in the city with the background. I had to share that because it's probably gonna get painted over at some point and ruined. But that is one of the best pieces I've ever seen.
Even the size comparison?
Yeah, Jake, stand in front of it.
I mean, he's small start.
Yeah, that's a good piece. Yeah, I said it goes right to the ceiling. They must have had a ladder in here or scaffolding. Oh, there's even like an airplane shooting at it. I'm missing like so many things just. Yeah. For the first time, I'm able to say that I went end to end on the abandoned Turnpike Highway. Much different experience than when I was here the first time 5 years ago, but of course I was on foot. It was colder, and it was just a whole different experience. Not better or worse, just different. Jake's doing some bunny hops. But officially covered end to end through both tunnels and inside, outside, and even above the tunnels themselves. Have several miles till we get back. I do have a few final thoughts I want to share with you, but in the meantime, I'd like you to enjoy this photo montage. 6 hours from when this video began, we are now here at the end of our adventure and our exploration on the famous abandoned turnpike tunnels. Just a few things I want to mention with you and kind of remind you of is number one, obviously don't come here on any motorized vehicle, gas powered. First time, well, with this being my second time here, it's my first time ever seeing a park ranger patrolling. And just coincidence, we went through the tunnel just for an extra ride since we're here. And there was about a half dozen bikers out there. And he was talking to them, checked their IDs, but then at the end they were laughing and just saying, just a stern warning not to do that again. I think he was originally looking for the bikers from earlier, but they already took off. I think me and Matt made history today though, because not only did we ride our bikes through the upper air shaft of the tunnel, but we did so on an e-bike. And I give him credit for hauling the bikes up there. It was not an easy feat, but he did it. And Jess was kind enough to let me ride her bike. And I will say it was a close call with me. Felt like my head was gonna be taken off with how low the ceiling got, but it made for some interesting video. I will say though, it's a completely different and awesome experience coming here on an e-bike to ride the whole abandoned stretch of highway. Cruising through the tunnels is by far my favorite part. It's not only super dark and kind of creepy, but it's much colder. Almost to the fact that I was kind of getting a little pointy over here. But I'm just being honest with you. Someone obviously lit off some fireworks too. It's really smoky right now. But all in all, I had a fantastic time. And as we learned, exploring the upper innards of these tunnels may be taken away in the future if plans do go forth with kind of sealing it up, lighting it up, and making it safer. So I'm glad I got to come here a second time to ride through it, very similar to how vehicles once did. And if I don't get to come back again before they seal it up, at least I have it fully documented today and was able to share the history with all of you. Do wish we did have some additional friends with us who couldn't make it today. Hopefully they could join us on the next ride. I do want to thank all these guys who did come out with us today. We had a fantastic time. And like I said, the e-bikes was just the perfect way to do this. I'm looking forward to doing more like this as well. If you do want to see more e-bike related videos, check the link down below. If you want to see anything else I did mention in today's video, it will all be down below in the description. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching, for hanging out with us. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.